All right, welcome back to the Gill Athletics Track and Field Connections podcast. I am so humbled to be your host, Mike Cunningham, National Sales Manager for Gill, and I'm just really pumped, man. I don't get to do this. I'm a slacker. I need you to hold me accountable. You can always reach me at Twitter, right? At Mike Cunningham. I live there on Twitter land, the Twitterverse, but I don't. I'm very cognizant of trying to hit all the levels of track and field, right? So all the NCAA, NAIA, JUCO levels. And I really want to do high school coaches, middle school coaches, club coaches, professional. I think everybody's story is important, and having a variety of those stories is important. But I live in the college world. Most of my life is college world. I coached college. Here I focus on college and college facilities. So I'm super excited today. Today we got a high school coach, a club coach, a coach that's like, I don't know, we could probably be doing this in person probably in 15 minutes drive each of us. So we're really close. So I'm super excited to get to know today's coach. Help me welcome the director. We're going to get into this. Listen to this. He's not the head coach of Kankakee High School. By the way, it's in Illinois, if you don't know where that is. He's not the head coach. He is the director of track and field for the boys and girls, not only the high school, but the junior high. And then, because he's not busy enough, he also is president, CEO, owner, starter, probably the head janitor as well of the very successful Vipers track club. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. Marques Lowe.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing this morning?
They're not going to answer. They're
Yeah,
right.
I know.
Yeah, okay. But maybe they will. Are you on Twitter? I don't know that I've seen you on
No,
Twitter.
I'm
Yeah.
not. That's the one social media platform that I'm not on.
Dude, I am fully on. Not only am I fully on it, just this past weekend. So I am on Instagram, but I just wasn't doing a lot. And I so believe in social media. Like I don't believe in like it's just a place for me to yell at people and you to listen and never never respond, and I don't ever respond to you. So I was just feeling so bad about Instagram that I was following 1,000 people and I'm just interacting like nil versus like Twitter, where I've sent out 1,000 tweets a month is kind of my average. So I'm very active on Twitter. So I did it. I for my own mental health, for my own belief in social media, I took Instagram down. I'm following like 4 people, like my wife, Gil, I think Trey Cunningham, because I think that's his most active, and I'm a big fan of Trey. And that might be it. Yeah, that might be it. I'm down to like 5 people, man.
Yeah.
So, and then on Facebook, we're connected. So we do, interact there a couple times.
Yeah.
But that's just for us old people. I heard no one, no youngins are on Facebook anymore.
Yeah. Hey, well, all the coaches are on Facebook, so I'm gonna stay right there where I'm at because that's where
Amen.
I'm at a bulk of them.
Amen. 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 That's exactly it. That's my focus, man. So that's when they're like the young people aren't there. I'm like, that's awesome. Because I'm focused on coaches. The coaches can be focused on athletes, but I'm gonna focus on you. Okay, there's our social media spiel of the day. So they can't answer you. They're not going to go on Twitter because they're not going to find you there. But I would always recommend you go to Twitter because I think it's the best place in the world besides real life. So Marques, let's dive into this. I'm going to kind of do this a little backwards because I think it's so interesting the way we introduced you there and kind of what we talked about in the pre-interview. Typically we go kind of linear, right? And we'll eventually, we are going to get there. But I think it's so interesting. Your title at Kankakee, which again is just up the road. If you know where Champaign, Illinois is, Kankakee is, I don't know, hour?
Yeah, 77 miles.
Yeah, let's call it an hour. I do have a funny thing only because I'm a huge fan. I almost said, do you know who Vanilla Ice is? You know who Vanilla Ice, yeah. Right. Okay. So he had a show in Kankakee for the Rib Fest or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. It was awesome. He's amazing. Salt and Pepper was there. It was fantastic. But he kept saying Kankakee, he kept saying Kankakee.
Yeah, it took me a while to get it too, and just still staying in Champaign, Urbana is that drive every day is crazy. So
hey, I've had when I've landed here, I used to fly out of CMI Champaign. Now I fly primarily out of Bloomington, but when we were landing, the flight attendant was like, all right, here we are, we're about to land in Champaign. What'd she say? Urbana. I was like, oh yeah, you're not from here. So okay, let's get into this because people are interested. This is so different. I've met high school coaches around the country, and they are the head boys coach or the head girls coach, or they're the head of the boys and girls program. That probably is the most common. but you have the director of track and field. Now, I've interviewed and met a good number of director of track and fields for college. What does this mean on the high school side? I've never heard of it. Have you heard of? Are you the first one in the whole world here? Tell me more about
I
this.
don't know if I'm the first one in the entire world, but I know I'm probably one of a few. For me, it was special because I was going back into coaching on a high school sector from USA track and field days. So I was just in my interview process, they asked me if I wanted anything, and I said I didn't understand my entire job role yet. And so when they explained it to me, the one thing I did ask for was that title. I said, can my title be instead of head coach, director of track and field? Because I will be coaching the boys and the girls team, like most college programs nowadays. And then also I'm the overseer of the junior high program. And the junior high program has more athletes than the high school program. You're looking at maybe, I think they had 89 this year. And Kankakee has four like junior high schools. So it just made sense. And I have a staff 13 under me. So I have 7 at the high school, and then I have 5 at the junior high level. So it makes sense. And I do all things track and field in Kankakee. That's just, my sports job, but I do have a day-to-day job in the building as well. So it's fun. It's a lot of work, and I'm super excited to be there at this time. It's been a journey for sure.
So, Mr. Kankakee, Mr. Kankakee, when you say the number of junior highs and you're overseeing them, are you implementing your the way you teach and coach and what you're looking for at all of those? So like you're
Yes.
helping direct those coaches.
Yes, like because we believe in a strong feeder program. You see so many schools that have these great football teams, these great basketball teams, because they come through these feeder programs. And so our belief at Kankakee is, why not here? Why not at our junior high level? So every coach at the high school level, they can have the title as director if they choose so, or they're just comfortable with head coach. But I'm more in the track and field world. So most track and field head coaches are director of track and field. So I want the junior high program to mimic everything that the high school program is doing. So for example, I had a young lady that trained with me this summer. She was in the 6th grade, and she knew the warm-up, she knew the drills, she knew everything, the terminology, and it makes the job at the high school level easier. We don't want to, it's like that easy button that you push, like Mouse Holloway always pressing this easy button when he get all these massive recruits to come to Florida, and he just pushed the button. I'm gonna get a button like that for Kankakee soon, but it makes my job easier, and then it makes my staff job easier, because we want those athletes to come in ready and ready to go, because that's exactly what we need. And this year is going to be a lot of focus on that because of what we accomplished this year as a program at the high school level. So just having those 8th graders come to the 9th grade, they know who we are, they know all the coaches, they know where the track is, they know where I'm at, they know I'm in room 113. All right, here's the warm up, go do it. And I'm watching, and I get to correct and fix as needed. So true directorship is fun.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I grew up in Alabama where football is king, and through my junior year, we weren't all that good. I wasn't any good, and we were barely better than I was as an individual. But my senior year, we had a new coach come in, a new staff, the famous and infamous Rush Propst, who had his own TV show on MTV, and he was on. He just had a Netflix show. I mean, he's kind of like I said, famous and infamous, unfortunately. But one of the things that he did was he hired the middle school coach. We just had one middle school in our area. He hired the middle school coach and had them run the same offense, same defense that we did. And we saw it, we got better our senior year, of course, but as I left and kept paying attention to the program, I noticed that the program got a lot better faster
Yeah.
because these middle schoolers came in and they already knew the plays, they
Yeah.
it was just a different grade. It wasn't a different program that they came up through. So this fascinates me with the feeder program, because it may not be the most uncommon thing for track for feeder programs, middle school into high school. It's not the most popular, but
Right.
that's not unheard of in my opinion, from my
Yeah.
experience. However, I have to think, sixth, seventh, eighth graders that have been through, I'm gonna call it your program, yours teaching style. You mentioned the warm up,
Mhm.
maybe your speed base, and we don't get into X's and O's here, but maybe how you coach sprinters and hurdlers specifically
Sure.
when they come into ninth grade. They not that they already know it, but they know it.
Yep.
I have to think that accelerates the learning process for them. Like,
Yes.
instead of the first 2-3 weeks of teaching, newbies, and I'm sure you're still getting newbies, you're still getting freshmen that did not do it in middle school and stuff like that.
Yes.
But 80% maybe already know the warm up. Well, that helps the people who have no idea. It's like, oh, okay, I see what everybody's doing. Oh, okay, how did you do? Oh, okay, they learn from
Yeah.
each other. It just seems like it would accelerate the learning for the athletes, and therefore you can get maybe more high quality reps in and stuff.
Yes, it definitely helps our conditioning because as coaches IHSA season, we are not allowed to coach until January. So our senior leaders step up, our senior captains step up, our eighth grade captains step in, and we just, hey, we're here to lift weights, but you guys need to warm up. And they go and they warm up, and we just sit back and we watch. And it's astonishing because you get to watch something that you put in being done by 40 new people, and they already know how to do it. It's just like, when I was coaching basketball at Champaign Central, it was hard to have a feeder program because you got Champaign Jefferson, you got Champaign Edison, you got Champaign Franklin, and you don't know who's going to what school. So you can't really go and say, well, let's go to Franklin and teach them this, because you don't know if those kids are coming to your school. And Kankakee is Kankakee Junior High School, and 80 to 90% of those kids come to Kankakee High School. So it makes perfect sense. And I got great coaches down at that level. Coach Jackson does a wonderful job leading the youth and just pouring positive energy into them. And when they come, they are super excited. Some come up there talking about what they want to do, and that's always fun because it's just like the collegiate level. Every freshman should be worried about that new freshman coming in the next year. So everybody's worried about that eighth grade state champion that we got coming in, or that eighth grader that came in that was faster than most of the people on the team. They're like, man, we want to dip. Yeah, you absolutely right. But it only makes our program better, stronger, faster, quicker. And then we get to get the job done with more of the X's and O's, which we're not going to talk about today.
Obviously there's some uniquenesses with Kankakee, meaning, Kankakee High is the major high school that, much like with Champaign, they could go to 2 to 3 other different kind of high schools, that kind of stuff. So there's that uniqueness. Here in Illinois, we have two uniquenesses that you already gave examples of. One was we can start practice in January. Like as soon as you said that, and I know you were like, man, I wish I could start earlier. I think of my friends up in Wisconsin who get 3 months and that's it. March, April, May, or March, April, May. That's it. And it's like, oh, that's tough. And I know there's other states like that. So that's unique. And then another unique thing that we have here in Illinois is we have a junior high state track meet as well, which I know not every state, probably most states
Exactly.
don't have that. Putting all that to the side, have you ever written an article on this? Like, again, not the accident, but just how you execute this program and feeder program. I just think there'd be so much value for others to hear that and learn that and then make it their own, right?
Right.
Wisconsin would look differently. Champaign would look differently than Kankakee, et cetera.
Yeah.
Have you ever put this down, this methodology on paper?
Well, I do. I have it all in a binder and a book. One of my lifetime goals is to write a book one day. So I have a lot of information that I want to share. And it's crazy because this all comes from USA Track and Field, AAU track, so taking over and coming in as, being the new director of track and field for Kankakee, everything that I have done was with the Vipers first.
Mhm.
So I always remind people of that, like, I did coach at Champaign Central and then St. Thomas More, but I founded a program that really, really worked for me. And everything that we did up to this point comes from somewhere and some coach who taught me or mentorship or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I have it all written down. I'll go over it every year. Like right now, I have 30 days before I start fall training. So I look at everything over and over and over again to make sure that if I have to tweak something, I can tweak it in the schedule. I have it written down. I know what we want to do. Location is really, really tough at sometimes, especially in the winter months with not a lot of practice facilities, but we still get the job done. So it definitely works. It worked for us this year across the board from junior high, high school, and USA track and field because we are a USA track and field club. So it works when it all makes sense and you got people that understand your methods. And I always say it's a method to the madness. Like my madness is just I'm like looking at stuff like, okay. Nope, that's not how you do this. This is what we got to do. Okay, let's switch this. Let's switch this relay order. It's all type of stuff that and when you know how to do it and it clicks for you, it makes everything run smoothly, efficiently, and effectively together. So
Yeah,
yeah, I would love to share it for sure.
yeah, I would encourage it. And maybe this is the first step, having it verbalized here
Yeah.
for the first 15 minutes or so here of this podcast. But I would encourage you because there's so much to it. Right? You're right. It is book material, right? It's a tome. There's a lot to it. It's not just an article, but I would encourage you to start putting out little parts of it. And you're talking a lot about when you're talking about tweaking the workouts and what worked last year and what you may change based on who's coming into the high school class this year, et cetera. I'm talking about more the methodology of a directorship that oversees feeder programs of middle schools, those kind of things, and the benefits
Yeah.
of that. You talked about like the fall program where you're not allowed to be involved into it. So here's the benefits of the way we do things, and I'm talking about that. So I would just encourage you, like if you're on LinkedIn, you can write articles there. Even a 2-minute video on YouTube or Facebook, etc. I would because a book is that's a marathon. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of work. And to do a marathon, you literally do it 1 mile at a time, right? You got to get
Yep.
up to running 5 miles, then you got to get a long run in, and your long run has to go from 10 to, I have no idea. No, I don't even like driving a marathon. So but you know what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
writing an article, doing videos, doing your own podcast, things like that. That'll help you build that book, and you're not giving away anything because it's the everything together is the real sauce there. So I would
Right.
just encourage it because one of our goals here on the podcast is to bring value to others. There's people listening right now that are like, oh, wait a minute, like I've kind of had thoughts about this, but no one's done this, no one's walked this path that you're taking right now, and so to help people see that, oh yeah, there's a path here, and by the way, it's a successful path, like that's good, that brings value to others, and that
Yes, definitely.
you'll have this kind of program in Texas and Florida and Alaska, and track will get better on the high school and middle school level because of this.
Yes.
There's real value there, man. I appreciate you helping us understand that.
No
So
problem.
let's dig into this then, because that's one thing I have to imagine you didn't just wake up one day and this was the path that, again, things build into each other. So let's take a step back, kind of get in our Wayback Machine here. Marques, at some point, assuming that you were an athlete, coaching went from something that was done to you. Your coach told you to run X and execute Y and all this kind of stuff. And at some point, maybe a switch flipped. And instead of it being something done to you, you had the thought of like, well, wait a minute, like maybe I could do this. Like maybe this could be my career, my passion, my life. I could be a coach. How does coaching start for you?
You know what? I don't remember exactly when that switch flipped, but I could tell you there's just one distinct moment that happened in my life that I knew I wanted to go into coaching. Um, I was a walk-on athlete for the U of I Fighting Illini team. And I want to say it's 2004, 2005. We were in Clemson. We were at the Clemson Invitational, and it was my first or second me outdoor under our new coach who just came in. And Coach Winneke had just retired. And, so it's just very, very new, very, very fresh. Many people don't know, before college athletics, I only ran track my senior year from March to May and then into the summer season in June. And I was able to walk onto the team. So I was really talented in a short amount of time. I was doing block starts and I ran into my coach like hard.
Physically?
Physically just ran into him. He was just in the
who,
way.
Who was this?
Coach Wayne Angel.
I was wondering if it was Wayne. Wayne just turned 70 today, the day we're recording, not the day you're listening, but the day we're recording. Today's Wayne's birthday, 70th birthday. This wasn't that long time ago. You ran into him.
Yeah, I ran directly into him.
Oh no.
And he made a comment, and I had my worst race ever. And some things happened along the way, and my career didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. I didn't have that mentorship that I had with Coach Winneke and Coach Tucker, who had just left for Kentucky.
Oh, so you had Tuck for
Tuck was my coach for 2 years. And he's still, to this day, like a mentor, a brother, a friend. I just wished him a happy birthday.
I was about to say another guy who just had his birthday. We're the same age. I'm like a week, maybe 2 weeks older than him. Yeah. No, I love Tuck, man. Come on, that's a great mentor to have and a great shoulder or ear to hear and bounce ideas off. He's done it, man. He's amazing.
That I do, it comes from Coach Winneke and Coach Tucker. Just the methods and everything. So at that point, after the season was over, some stuff happened. I got kicked out of the U of I, being a kid. And I had to go to Parkland for a year. And I got kicked out with 9 credit hours. And the one thing that I do appreciate about Coach Angel is he allowed me to come back and help, be on the sideline, just be around track and field and things like that. And I knew then, because the recruiting class that I helped bring in with Coach Tucker were in their juniors and senior year. And so I was able to watch them be great. And then I watched Angel bring in Nathan Vadabancourt and Shoes Machado. And in that same year, they finished second at the NCAAs in the 4x4. I got to watch my teammates come home with medals and just be proud of something that they did that didn't happen in Illinois history in a long time. And so then I knew, I was like, okay, I think coaching might be the call. And so I started in 2008 with some small coaching things on the side. I got into my master program. I turned down a coaching position, and then I got into this master program, graduated, and that same coaching position opened up the next season. And it was one simple call, and Coach Hood hired me at Champaign Central, and I spent my first 4 years there coaching at the high school level. But I started in 2008. I got my first job in 2010. I was at a basketball game. I was at Champaign Jefferson. They called me after the game and offered me the job. And it's just taken off ever since. So I am officially now into my 13th year of coaching. So it's been a long ride so far.
Go back. This is super interesting. You're a young person, and you just expressed about how, the kids that you had helped bring in, some of your teammates, they had gone to nationals, came back with a runner-up 4x4, which is, I mean, if you top 5, first of all, if you're in the finals of the NCAA Division I 4x4, it's crazy. It was crazy back then. It's crazier now, but it's just crazy. The 4x4 is actually the event that got me out of coaching. In 2005 at Mississippi State, we ran like 3 flat 0.5 or something like that. You're supposed to win it at 3 flat. We were 5th. LSU set the college record. I think Tech was up there, probably Baylor. Minnesota had an amazing team.
Yep,
I was like
and
fifth place.
five, yep.
I was like, this is no fun. I was like, this just isn't fun. It just wasn't. I got up out of there and let better men and women like you take care of that stuff. But what's interesting to me, so you had to be, I don't know, you couldn't have been 20, 21, 22 at the
Yep.
time. And instead of, the old man in me says, oh yeah, 21-year-old who, his teammates come back with medals gets jealous. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that should be me. I should be that good. I should be going to nationals. Maybe not, maybe you say not them, but it's all about me, right? I should have been,
Right.
but instead, and I saw your face, so your words synced up with your truth there. Like you were like happy, like, and it intrigued you a little bit. Like I could see a little bit of
Yeah.
intrigue, like, yeah, that was so cool. Like they did that. And it was almost like, and how did they do? Like, I wanted to be that person that helps other people do that.
Yeah.
Where does that helping, that servant leadership come from? So I'm gonna ask two questions with that. What did you originally go to college? What did you think you were going to be? Did you think you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, a business
Okay.
owner, etc.? And what did you have mentors in your life that were teachers? That, I think of servant leaders, I think of teachers, they're just,
Yeah.
100 hours a week just giving to students. Where does that come from, and what did you think you were going to become?
So I went into college to be a teacher, actually. I went in to study education and be a teacher. I just had a rough time. Growing up, I grew like in the hood, like in the hood. So I always tell people I appreciate where I come from. And I had one mentor who probably was in his 30th year of teaching at the junior high level. His name is Samuel Lawrence. And he was not only a mentor as a father figure to me, but he didn't understand anything about athletics. So he couldn't tell me anything about track and field, nothing about sports. He was all about helping us grow as young men in a community and showing us a way to get out of where we were. And so in college, I didn't have that. I could tell you right now, I didn't meet a mentor in college until I was in grad school, because the undergrad grind was crazy, especially being an athlete trying to navigate through, the whole college dynamic. I didn't stay in the six packs or FAR where all the athletes stayed or anything like that. I stayed in Allen Hall. So my truck was a little bit longer because I came in late. I didn't know I was going to U of I until like August. And then the next week I left, to go to school. And it just happened like that for me. And Allen just happened to be the one dorm that was open for me to stay in. And so, athletics was hard. And on top of that, my daughter was like 2. So I had a daughter at 16. And my mom always told me, she's like, I don't care what's going on at home. You're going to school, we'll make sure we take care of the baby. And they did. And Naya's 22 now. So it was just one of those things where I just knew that I wasn't going back to the hood, and I had to make a name for myself. And I remember the first Big Ten championship I ran in, and then I came back and it was on TV in the hood. And I just got so much respect. And so many of my friends like, man, your mom we heard her screaming down the street. And it was one of the coolest moments of my life, just knowing that little old me from nowhere gets to come home and your friends saw you on TV running in the Big Ten championships in the 4x4 against that Minnesota team who finished that 4x4 team finished second to Baylor that year with Rick Williamson and Jeremy Warner and Mitch Potter and Adam Steele, who was the national champion in the 400 that year. So I came up with those guys, and the coaching thing just clicked for me, because like that's a whole nother backstory, because I just felt that after Winneke left and and Tuck left, I just didn't have that person who really just honed my skills. Like Angel was not that person for me. And he is actually one of the main reasons why I went into coaching, because I wanted to help. I'm just like, I'm seeing this at a different level. I know I didn't have it in high school, and maybe I would have if I joined track and field earlier, but I didn't. But now my goal is to make sure this never happens to anybody else. As long as I'm a coach in your life, I'm going to be able to give you the ins and the outs of the business. I'm going to make sure that you get in front of college coaches. Experience and exposure is one of the things that we teach. And just making sure that they understand that the grades matter. You know, grades come first, and then your athletic career comes second. So all of that was really, really big for me, because that was my journey throughout, you know, my collegiate season, you know, in court because of my daughter and X, Y, and Z, and going back and forth home and just trying to make it work. And it, you know, Tuck was there through those time periods where you're like, take care of your business, do what you got to do. I remember I got a horrifying call. We were at Texas Relays, and they were going to fly me all the way back home. And I was like, no, my mom told me to stay, so I'm staying. And I went and had a great meet, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, eventually I got to go back home because this is what's happening. But it just reminded me, I didn't want any of the kids that I was going to go into coaching to go through what I went through at the collegiate level. So getting them there and teaching them the tools to get there and how to navigate the system, the ins and outs, was super important to me. And in '08, I had two athletes that I were coaching. In 2010, at Champaign Central, I met Simone Thompson, and she was one of my first athletes that I ever coached, ever sent to college or anything. She and her parents were the first people to trust me to coach her to become the person that she is today. And now she's a coach in South Carolina for Charleston, Columbia College in South Carolina. She's getting married in September to Jalen Bacon, who's one of the fastest men in the world.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be at this wedding pretty soon with Kendall Williams, Noah Lyles, Josephus Lyles. All of them are in this wedding. Pedro Seymour, all of them are going to be at this wedding. It's just a full circle thing. So I'm super, like, that's that coaching journey for me. If I would have never met her and never went through what I went through at the U of I, this probably wasn't possible, because I thought I was going to the Olympics in 2004. I was very talented, but when your head coach tells you that he's retiring and they don't bring back the person that brought you in, and everything goes down, it's like, how do you navigate through that storm? And my storm was pretty bad, but
Yeah,
I made it through, and I'm here today. So,
yeah,
you know,
Marques, you know, one of the things that we are intimately fascinated with is, you know, and you even have it for your title here on the, you know, we record through Zoom, is Coach Marques Lowe. And certainly that coach is important. And people like Simone and others have, you know, they've reached out to you because you're Coach Lowe and all those kind of things. But, you know, what's more important than Coach Lowe is Marques Lowe. And, you know, the story you just shared with us. And by the way, thank you. I mean, I'm just blown away with your openness and authenticity. And this is exactly, you know, there's someone listening right now, more than one person listening right now, that is taking hope from this story. Because let's do a little memory check here. A father as a teenager. Come on now, you have every
yeah,
excuse right there to not be successful. And you define success. I'm not judging on what,
right,
you know, the team that works for Waste Management that gets my garbage every Monday. I love those guys and gals that work there. That they're successful. They're taking care of their family. They're providing value for me. So success is not you're, you know, a CEO of a Fortune 100 company. You define success. So
right,
you're a father as a teenager. Bam, there's check number one. You should not be successful, and others will judge you so that you can't be
right,
successful. You got kicked out of, I say kicked out. It was kicked out. Seems like it happened to you. You did it. You didn't do the grades and things like
yeah,
that, and you got removed from U of I. Right? Boom.
yeah,
Check number two. Another reason why people could judge you and why you could judge yourself and not be successful. Like make every excuse in the world to just, you know, not be a productive member of society.
yeah,
You know, having the coaching turnover, not having the athletic career that you thought or wanted. Boom, there's another check right there. I mean, it's quite amazing what you have done. And what I love about that is, on the outside, if 20 1-year-old Marques Lowe was presented to me. Yeah, flunked out of U of I, father at 16 or as a teenager, I'd be like, I could easily judge that and be like, oh, what a loser.
Right.
Same, creating the same cycle that maybe was him. By the way, I'm a son of a 15-year-old. My mom was 15 when she had, so no father. I mean, this
Yeah.
resonates a lot with me here. So easily could judge, and you make a mistake and be like, well, yeah, this person just doesn't have their stuff together, not knowing, wow, this guy's a father.
Yeah.
I struggle as a father as a 46-year-old. I couldn't imagine being a father as a 16, 17,
Man.
18-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So I love, I actually love that those things happen to you. I
Mhm.
honestly wish they didn't. I'd wish, the happiness and best for everybody from the day you're born to the day you die. But I love that those happened and you didn't allow those speed bumps to end the race, to stop you
Yeah.
right there. Just kept pushing, kept forward. Mom obviously was a huge influence, and
Yes.
it was like, yeah, look, man, if you ain't gonna be successful, it ain't gonna be because of me. Like, I'm gonna be here
Yeah.
kicking your behind all the way,
Every day. Every
every
day.
day, man. I love it. I love it. So again, thank you, man, because I think if we were just to have taken a snapshot of this past year, specifically of you and Kankakee, it looks like you have got the world. Spoiler alert: state champs for did you won both boys and girls?
Both
Yeah,
both boys and girls.
yeah, both boys and girls state champ. That's come on, man. That's Mouse-esque, and you know what I mean when I say that. That's Mike
Yep.
Holloway. Mike Holloway only won 3 of the 4 track titles this year. It seems like he's going to try to go for the 4 for 4 next year with what he's
Yeah.
that easy button. It actually
Yeah,
got
that's oof.
it
Living
got
up
worn out.
comfortably.
Yeah,
Yep.
it got worn out. He needs a new one. It got worn out. But what you did, what your team and your coaching staff did, is everybody wants this. Come on, state title. Boom, he won 2 of them, right? It looks like, oh yeah, Marques. Oh, U of I, yeah, okay, Big Ten guy. Of course he wins. Whatever. Blah blah. It's like, oh no, peel back that layer.
Yep.
We're talking about a teenage father, college dropout that had to come back in. I mean, bravo, buddy. I mean,
Thank you.
that is what someone else right now is feeling bad about themselves, maybe rightfully so, thinking I can't be successful. I'm not going to be successful because of this happened, this happened, this happened. Those things happen to you, and again, a
Yeah.
lot of them, most of them, I don't know, it's not for me to judge, are based on your decisions that you made, yet you decided to do the right things and make more right decisions than bad decisions out
Yeah.
there, and successes happen. I love that, man. That's
Yeah.
um I mean, that really means a lot to me, of what a coach can be. And then now doing those same advices, using that experience that you've had to help young people today. Come on, man. That's
Yeah. Definitely.
that's what it's about. That's
Yeah.
regardless if you have coach or not. But here we do it in the coaching ranks. So we're talking 14 to 18-year-olds in your area, in high school there. That's the real power of being a coach. It's that positive impact that you make with the young kids that you have right there in your program, whether you have 2 or 200.
Yep.
That's world changing. Like, there are people that are not going to have to go through some of the tough times that you went through because of listening to you. They're gonna like, oh wait, hey, coach mentioned this, maybe I shouldn't make this decision and make a different decision. And they've gone around this big old
Yeah.
speed bump, man. So bravo, man. You are, and I know there's hundreds of us out there listening right now that have had similar experiences. That's what it's about, man. Using those experiences to help young people today, man. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love
Definitely.
it. I love it. Well, let's get into some of the coaching and coaching stops here, and see how all this kind of plays together. There's no separate, right? There's no, things that happen in my personal life don't affect coaching and vice versa, right? So in 2010, you start with Champaign Central. Did you grow up in Champaign? I know we're talking a lot about Champaign.
Ooh. No, I'm from Massachusetts, and
Oh,
I'm a military brat.
oh,
So Massachusetts, my mom was just all over. My dad was too at the time. So I'm not sure when we moved to Illinois, but Ford Heights, Illinois was the stop for us. And we were living with my grandmother and grandfather for a time being while my mom and my dad was still in the military.
okay.
So Ford Heights just became home for us. As my mom was traveling the world and um, her mom and dad took us in and took care of us. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So you're working at Champaign Central with Coach Hood. Are you, you on Facebook? I see a lot of sprints and hurdle stuff. Is that your bend by trade? Is that event area or jumper or distance? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's just what I did in college, but I can actually coach everything with the exception of 3 events. So
Oh, I got to hear the three. Yeah.
hammer, I
Okay.
can coach
Makes
hammer.
sense. Yeah.
Pole vault
Makes sense.
is the next one, and javelin.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
so
Good. Good.
but everything else I'm well versed in. I'm a sprint guy by heart, but one of my first volunteer jobs was a cross country coach for Franklin Middle School. So I worked under Kim Savely, and I appreciate everything that she did for me, just teaching me what she knew. And then came Champaign Central with the hire, while I was in my grad program, and I turned them down the first time because I got into the grad program because I had to right or wrong, from being kicked out with only 9 credit hours. My mom was like, nope, you're going back to finish. And I knew I had to go back to finish. And so I turned them down. And I met Dr. Span and Dr. James Anderson and William Patterson, Dr. P. He became my mentor for life. And they got me through my master's program. And so in 2014, a lot of stuff happened. I was still a kid in a man's body, just trying to do right by my daughter, working in so many jobs and doing the worst of the worst that you probably could think of as being a grown man trying to just make it hustling and X, Y, and Z. Ended up I kind of like don't want to kind of go there, but I kind of do want to go there because everybody think they know the story. When I left Champaign Central, I had 7 jobs in the school district for Unit 4. So I had 7 job titles. I was the assistant coach for boys basketball at Franklin Middle School, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I was a cross-country volunteer coach. I was the head track and field coach at Franklin Middle School. I was the assistant at Champaign Central for track and field. I was the assistant girls basketball coach for Champaign Central at the same time. I was the second in command for the Summer Youth Employment Program, where we raised over $970,000 for kids in the community to work. And then I founded an organization called YGC, which was Young Gentlemen's Club at Franklin Middle School that lasted about 4 years. And I had to walk away from that because of a lie. So I walked away for a year, fell on hard times, got hired at MTD, and then I got a call from, I want to say Michelle Ramage in Rantoul. She was the superintendent, and they hired me in Rantoul. And then I got hired at St. Thomas More as the girls' head coach in 2014. So a lot happened in that 4 years, and some of those things I'm super proud of. One of those things I'm not, because as a I can say that as a Black man growing up, you only got one name, and I'm always wanted to protect my name. And people feel like they know what the story is, and they don't know what the story is. And I'm not. I can share, but I'm probably not going to. At the end of the day, all of those hurdles and jumps got me to where I'm at today. It was a lot of speed bumps, a lot of hurdles, and so it got me all the way to Kankakee, because in 2014, 2015, if you remember, St. Thomas More had an amazing year. We had 13 athletes, every last one of them qualified for state. If you go into St. Thomas More gym and you look up at the board, you will see a lot of 2014, a lot of 2015. That was all Coach Lowe and Coach Ball, and they fired me. They let me go. They didn't give me a reason, but came out to find out what that reasoning was, and it was total BS. But to their liberty, it is what it is. And I didn't go back into high school coaching until Kankakee called. I I'm going into my 5th year, so I would say 5 years ago. I just stayed on the circuit of USA Track and Field, made a name for myself, and just coached and worked with kids while I was in Rantoul, and the Vipers just got bigger and bigger and bigger. We went from 7 athletes to 14, 21, back to 17. That very next year when St. Thomas More let me go, I had 77 kids that came out that summer. And then the program just took off. And it was like God telling me like, hey, this is what you were meant to do. So let's do it right and make it happen. And it's funny how everything happened. I started figuring out all of the stories after I left St. Thomas More, what happened, why they decided to let me go, the letters that were involved. And it was just bad. It's just like, you know, we live in this egg age where you can't push a kid hard. But when you look at the success of what the program is doing, if one person is being pushed too hard, another person feel like they're being pushed too hard. So they all get together to write these letters and say, coach is coaching us too hard. I'm like, I didn't even know that was possible, because every coach that was in my life pushed me to be the best athlete that I could be. And a lot of that program hasn't been the same since I left. So I look at that and I say, you know what? Maybe that was the writing on the wall for you to let me go, for me to start getting bigger in track and field. And in that same year, we had 81 total All-Americans for USA Track and Field for the Vipers. So that was, it was like, you know, we had our first national champion. A lot happened in that same year when all of that stuff went down. So, you know, it was the journey going to Kankakee that happened. So I'm happy it happened, but I just don't like how it happened. I don't like the rumors. I don't like the lies. I don't like the false stories. And I'm very transparent as a person. I'm 39 years old now. So I'm like, I tell people all the time, like, if you want to know something, just ask me. I'll tell you the truth, because a lot of the truth wasn't told when I was coaching back. I think they looked at me as a threat, as somebody that's coming up in the community, that's really, really big in the sports that everybody loves and everybody likes. And he holds all of these positions. And so we got to find a way to move some stuff around. And they did. And I went one way, the kids went another way, but I get a lot of messages from those kids that I coached that were in my program at YGC, Champaign Central, just say, man, thank you, coach, for sticking with us and being hard on us. And even the ones that I don't speak to, I follow them on social media, and I just make sure that I like everything. One of my athletes is now working at Arizona State as I want to be like a director of ops, and I'm super proud of that, because I just remember her just playing basketball and running track for me at Central and St. Thomas More, so just to watch them grow up and become who they are is amazing. Keegan Pettigrew is at North Carolina now, and it's like, if you would have told me that she was going to go to UNC, I would have been like, ain't no way. But she went to UNC and she's been there, and she was one of the ones that helped me create the Vipers and help the program get to the level of eliteness that it is at this point. And so that's where a lot of the stuff from Kankakee comes from, just the grind of athletics and just understanding that, hey, it's a method to all of this, and you got to go through these storms. But once you come out on the other side of that storm, it's going to be beautiful. And the one thing that Coach Tucker did recite to us when he was kicking our butts in Covert Park and at the hills and stuff over there, he would always recite this poem when he was just killing us on the track. It's called See It Through. And he would just yell it loud when we were doing these circuits. I hate coach circuits. And that was the name of the circuit, I hate coach. And he made sure that he would drop us off at the field. We would do the fields, and then he was like, all right, see y'all later. We'll see you back at the track. And we would have to run back after all of my teammates are throwing up and stuff like that. It was it was a process. So that was like my first tattoo, was one of the things that it was like, it was See It Through, because I've been through so much. And I just remember that poem and him reciting that poem in my head as I'm on the ground gasping for air. And so when I came out on the other side of that, I just knew it was going to be beautiful. It took a while, but that's life journey of a coach that didn't have much and didn't grow up with much, but I'm super ecstatic that I came out on top because it could have went either any way, and it went the right way for me. So I'm super blessed in that regard. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Kind of, I'm gonna call it pre-Vipers, even though Vipers might have been there, but before, you're getting 70
Yeah.
kids and having the success. It's one thing when I like to call myself a former hurdler. If you actually saw the race, you wouldn't be so convinced. But so now I vicariously lived through Trey Cunningham, now formerly of
Yeah.
FSU, because we're both from Alabama, both last name, we're both good looking dudes. So I just say he's my brother, and he got all the genetic talent. But when someone like Trey and other amazing athletes around the country go to do the hurdles, they know they're putting those hurdles in front of them, right? They're actually doing it. Like, I'm choosing to do the hurdles instead of the 100 or the 400, etc. And even though they may stumble and fall while they're learning, you pick yourself back up. You made the decision to be a hurdler, pick yourself up. It's a different environment, I guess, if someone else is putting a hurdle in front of you. You decide you're going to be a 100-meter dash person, and a random person from the sideline just throws a 42-inch hurdle in front of you. It's like, well, that's not fair. It's not my race.
Right.
During this time, really sounds, I'm going to say ups and downs. I mean, certainly there were some ups, but it sounds like there were a lot of downs.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time, and if so, how did you overcome it? A lot of people would have folded. A lot of people would have quit. A lot of people would have said, you know what, maybe this track thing ain't my thing. You had other experiences coaching basketball. So whether it's coaching another sport, or just getting out of it and being a teacher or guidance counselor, or what, just doing regular stuff like oh gosh, I forgot his name. You talked about your one mentor who didn't know sports at all, and
Mr. Lawrence, the
Mr.
law.
Lawrence, yeah, the law. I love that, the law. So there's a lot of options you could have taken. What stopped you from quitting?
Man, okay, so I've never shared this story with people outside of my circle, so I'm going to share it with you.
You're on the Gill podcast. Your circle is getting a lot bigger, my friend.
Yeah, and I'm kind of worried about that, but
hey, no pressure. There's you don't want to share,
crazy.
You don't share.
Like, my mom tears helped me say that I can get through. So when I was in college in 2005, 2006, nothing was going right for me. I actually was doing everything right that the judge ordered me to do for my child, because, child support and X, Y, and Z. And I went to court one day, and the judge locked me up, locked me up for doing everything right, because I spoke my mind. I told the judge exactly how I felt, and he held me in contempt. But the bailiff knew he was wrong, so she let me pull out my cell phone and call my mom before she put me in a cell. And she put me in a cell by myself. The judge was just being a judge, and he sent me to 26 in California. So while nothing was going right at that time, I spent 9 hours in the prison in 26 in California, and it really changed my life. But everything spiraled downhill right after that. I became depressed. My anxiety was high. I became suicidal, and I was my grades had slipped. My English, I was a history major at the time because I wanted to teach history, and my GPA had dropped below a 2.0, so they was threatening to kick me out of the U of I. So I switched majors to English, and I had a 3.3, and there was a point in time I just became very suicidal. So I was on the phone with my brother. He was all the way in Sacramento, California, and I'm on the phone with him, and he's talking to me, and he's yelling at me to just fight it and live life. And I call my best friend, and I'm talking to her, and my mom, in I want to say it's 06, 07. She just told me to come home, and that's the first time I heard her say I love you, in years, because my mom was super tough. She showed me a lot of tough love, but she didn't come to a lot of sporting events. She didn't do that. She just watched from afar. And I didn't understand it back then because I felt like I needed her and my dad to be there, and they never were. But when she told me to come home and I could hear the pain in her voice, it motivated me to be successful. I was like, I can't go back to the hood, and I'm not going back home. And that was in '06. So in 14, when everything started spiraling downhill based on lies and rumors, I just remembered that moment. And I was like, I know I'm stronger because I've been through worse. And, it hurt at the time, but I had, at this time, I got better mentors. I got better leaders in my life. Dr. Patterson, Mr. Lawrence is still in my life to this day. I want to say he's like 87 years old, so still in my life to this day. My mom is no longer my mom. She's like my best friend now. And my daughter was of age where she understood while I was away from home what I was doing to become, so she can become who she is to this day. And so just looking at my athletes and the people that I was training in 2014, it made sense because I think at that time, when St. Thomas More let me go, I had just told Coach Tucker that I wasn't, he had offered me a position to come to Penn State to do whatever, be his graduate assistant or coach under him or whatever the case may be, so I could get my start in collegiate coaching. But my thought process was, I'm so focused on what we just did at St. Thomas More, ain't no way I could leave these kids here. And then Thanksgiving, they let me go and didn't give me a reason. And his words were, we don't have to give you a reason. We just going to go in a different direction. And so when I left St. Thomas More, my phone is blowing up from donors because, they have these donors and sponsors and stuff to try to figure out what's going on. I went to U of I where we were hosting Vipers practice because they have open hours, and I had 20 new people there. So I didn't realize how much of a sign that was at that time. So I had 20 new people there waiting to train with me that have never met me before. And so when the summer came around, it just got big. And then I started paying attention to the signs because I had lost my faith for a little bit, but I had to go back to that time where I heard my mom pain and the tears and just hearing her say, baby, you can come home. I love you. You don't have to go through this by yourself. And I went through it by myself so I can be stronger on the other end. So, with everything that was going on back at home in the hood with my friends passing away, going to jail, and being killed in the community, I was not willing to sacrifice what I went through, whether it was painful or whether it was, me trying to figure it out on my own, to come out on the other side of it. And so I share that story with my athletes now all the time because I know that they go through those times and they just don't share. They don't tell anybody. My brother was willing to fly from Sacramento just to save my life. And then my best friend ended up going to my mom's house and telling her what I went through. And when I got that call, I just knew that, I could be a leader in somebody else's life. So like I said, I'm truly blessed because a lot of other stuff went on at the time. I'm only giving you the short version of it. But I knew that no matter what I was going through in 2014 and 2015, I was super down. I didn't have a job. I was homeless. I was all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, when Rantoul called, everything just picked back up. It was like, okay, I'm working at Thompson's Learning Academy, and I made it work and volunteer my time and services, met with coaches, talked. Tuck stayed in my ear. He helped me out because we play fantasy football and basketball every year since he left U of I. I met people through him, coaches, and just Facebook at the time was a great tool for me because it allowed me to meet so many coaches, so many people. And when I got into the bulk of the coaching, it was like, I can do this. And no matter how much I was down on myself and down on my luck, it all started to change when Kankakee came calling. And in 2018, when they called, I was shocked, but I didn't want to go back into high school coaching. And when they called, it changed my life. It was like, okay, now I get it. And I was like, I'm not getting on the road every single day. I got to move to Kankakee. But I was like, I ain't moving to Kankakee. So, like I'm going to get on this road every single day. And it was crazy because it was dark. It was super dark. Just, even sharing that I had suicidal thoughts and have to go to therapy to talk to somebody with what's going on in my head because I couldn't talk to my brothers, my sisters, my family. So I always let my athletes know you can always talk to me about anything because you probably have never been through it. I went through it and I came out on this side. And whoever's listening, when they hear this story, they're like, man, he has told us that so many times because I let them know I'm a real person. Like, I'm not rich. I don't have the fame and the glory, but I do have experiences and life lessons. And so those life lessons that made me the coach that I am today. And I'm super proud of that person because I could have easily, died in my struggle and not knowing the gift that I have to give to the world. And that's just the gift of coaching, the gift of leadership, the gift of mentorship. And I'm super proud of just coming out on the opposite side of it. I'm not ashamed of it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I do hate that it had to go the way that it went because I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of people that I really cared about, that I really loved, that turned their backs on me for rumors. And it sucks. But from 2014 till now, some of those people are looking at me like, man, this dude won 2 state championships. This dude has national champions. This dude has over 100 All-Americans. What the freak clicked? And I was like, it was always there.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to get to it until I went through that bad. And I can say since I've been in Kankakee, everything has been good, except for when I first got there. You're taking over for a great coach and don't nobody want to accept you. You go in, you get bullets from each and every way in the community. He not from Kankakee. Why you didn't hire this person? Blah, 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 blah. And it took a while. It took 4 years. And I told my athlete, I'm pretty sure we're going to get into that, but I told my athletic director, give me 4 years. And in the 4th year, I am the only coach in the state of Illinois that has won 2 state championships, being the one coach of both programs. It has happened 7 times with the schools being 2 programs, but 1 time with me being at the helm of both programs. So that's just a story in itself, you know.
I was gonna say pause there. We'll get to Kankakee for lots of obvious reasons. So we did kind of what I'm calling the pre-Vipers.
Right.
There's kind of this, now I'm calling it the Viper section because it's interesting. First of all, Marques, listening to your story and your journey, and again, just kind of selfishly, it just makes me so proud of what we started here at the Gill Connections podcast, because this is exactly it, man. This is, every coach's story, every coach's journey, it matters.
Right.
There you wouldn't believe how many people I reach out to and it's like, then they to be on the podcast and they're like, I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything. My story, it's boring, or there's no, it's like, no, you're wrong. Even the most boring story that you think is boring has value to someone out there.
Right.
My friend, your story is not boring at all. Your story is a made for TV miniseries, my friend. we need to get Hulu or Netflix on the line here. Everybody keeps talking about oh gosh, what's the show on Netflix? They did football and then basketball. Last Chance U. I need to see a Last Chance U on coaches, my friend, because you had a couple of last chances and you kept breaking through. I love it. With all of that going on, it's hard to be a high school coach. It's hard, whether you're a volunteer, an assistant, a head coach, a director. It's hard to be a college track coach, no matter whether you're coaching distance, throwers, it doesn't matter. It's hard. I have learned, and I don't have a lot of experience on this level. I coached it for like 2 weeks and bowed out because I'm not strong enough. Starting I'm gonna call it a summer track club. I know you practiced outside that, but your meets are mainly focused, AAU and USATF meets and such are in the summer. You're starting a business. You're starting a business around something you're very passionate about, coaching track and field and helping young people. You're also opening up your ages from 8 years old to whatever you decide on your track club. What made you start the club? And for someone who's maybe thinking of starting a club right now, what were some of the hard things you had to overcome, some things you had to learn, some things that you had to learn because it smacked you in the face, which seems to be a lot of your story. So I feel like there's more going on here. Talk to us about that club aspect of being an owner.
That's tough because for one, you got to have a location and you got to have an end with athletes. The starting the Vipers, it wasn't initially my idea. It was Coach Candace Phillips. She was a great hurdler at Champaign Centennial, and she went on to EIU. And I think she has still a few records in the hurdles at EIU in Charleston. And I think she was coaching at Urbana at the time. She had a really, really talented son. His name was Christian Phillips. And so Urbana, Central, and Centennial, we always go head to head at track meets. And so this is back in the time when my mouth could get me in trouble because I knew I was going to be a great coach, but I was just getting started. And we didn't have the athlete caliber that Urbana or Centennial have. And I always felt like they utilized them wrong. So I would make super bold comments like, oh, you can't give me this athlete. I kick your butt with your own athletes. This is me. This is just me, just being who I am, just not cocky, but confident in my ability to coach.
I'm going to stop you just a little bit there, Marques, because we do have experience in the back that we can, there is a fine line, because someone right now is listening going, no, sir, I think that sounded cocky. There's a fine line between cocky and confidence. I'm not sure you didn't go over, not knowing the context and everything. I'm just saying, okay.
Yeah.
All right, keep going. I just wanted to put that out there. Keep going.
I mean, but that was just my way of just, people at that time, I guess you could call it cocky. I guess so. But I had one athlete, and we built our program around Simone Thompson. And I knew like Simone was going to be a freaking star. No matter who we put against her, it was just like, you cannot beat her. And so Candace came up to me and was like, we should, do a summer thing. And I was like, man, that'll be dope. And she was like, I got connections to Centennial. I'm at Urbana, you at Central, and then we could go to St. Thomas More, so we can do X, Y, and Z. I said, all right, cool. I wasn't in recruiting kids though. I didn't want to go out and, so what we did was Candace brought her athletes from Urbana, and I had my athletes at Central. And there was one athlete that came. I was training Simone at, because we all used the same track at this time. Urbana's track was being resurfaced or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so we were all at the track at the same time. And I met Dominique Lewis at Centennial. She was a freshman, and her dad and her mom was at the track as I was coaching Simone. And it was like, man, we want to do what she's doing because she's not doing that over here. So when we started the Vipers, we started with 7 athletes, Simone being the one that we built the program around, Latacia Dove, Dominique Johnson at Urbana, Dominique Lewis at Champaign Centennial, Athena Combs at Central, and then her son, Kristen Phillips. So those are our 7 athletes. And Jayana Anderson, who was super young middle school athlete at Urbana. And so that first year was tough. Like it was like we were going places and getting killed. It was just like, oh my God, we thought we was good, and we going up to Chicago for the UIC meets or the Chicago State meets where they would have Thursday night and getting murdered. Like it was just crazy. And so, and then it started to click for the kids. It's like we can be some of the best. And so that very next year, Simone, she ran into a juggernaut. She ran into Shamir Little.
Like that's putting it lightly.
Yeah. So Simone was she was slated to win the 100 and the 300 hurdles, but Shamir just had that year where I think her team finished 2nd or 3rd in the state by herself. And Simone, that's who she lost to. Simone was a senior and Shamir was a junior. And so it was the Shamir Little show at the state meet. But Simone went on and did like the USA Junior Olympics that year. She finished 10th in the nation. 10th in the nation in the 100 hurdles, and like 12th in the nation in the 400 hurdles. And she went on to U of I. And so they were the start of what we were building, but it was super tough. Like just trying to find athletes and getting athletes to join the program that next year. Because of what Simone, Dominique, and our Urbana girls did, more athletes came. So then you get Elizabeth Bristol from St. Thomas More, and then you get a few boys from Champaign Centennial. So it started to sprinkle in. And so we started building a program on a word of mouth base,
Hmm.
just based off people that we knew that had athletes that ran track and field. We just was like, hey, we got this summer club. And if you guys want to join us, we're not recruiting, but if you want to join us, this is where we're practice. And so everything just started to work at that time. We went from 7 athletes to 14 to 21 and then back down in that last year. But Dominique became a star for Champaign Centennial. Like she went on to go to Wisconsin. And it's just crazy. In that year, she didn't lose a race until the car accident. Like a drunk driver hit her as she was dropping her mom at work doing something normal. And then she went and ran that same meet and she lost to Tiana Easton of Kankakee at Urbana after the car accident. It was crazy, right? So,
Wow.
And she went on to finish second in the state and third in the state in the 200. And so our program started taking off. That was our big year. We went to Jacksonville, Florida for USA Track and Field. We got a bunch of people involved. They were super excited about the Vipers. Peter Fox made this big donation to the Vipers track program. We were getting notice on TV and so many different things. So it took about 4 years for people to actually notice us, but the groundwork was put in. Fundraising was always a big thing because we started our program for at-risk youth. So we had athletes from the Boys and Girls Club, the Douglas Community Center. And so we were just trying to just get back to the community. Just here in Champaign-Urbana, with all of the schools in Champaign, you can build your own program. And then there was another track and field program at the time going on. Brown's track club was in the community as well. They focused more on little or younger kids. And at this time, I had a relationship with Abraham Jones. He was one of my teammates at U of I, and he had a program called Track My Speed. And so those were the 3 programs in our area, and building it took a while because we always have to run against each other. And so when our athletes started coming in, I knew it was going to be special because Dominique, and then you got Kylie Welch, who went on to win the state championship for Bloomington that year, and so many girls and so many boys. Vincent Gordon, who ran 2044 and 1044, 1066. We had so many great athletes come in, and we didn't recruit not one of them. Like it was just the program had built this self. And so what the kids would do in the program, they would say, hey, you should come run for us in the summer. And I always told them, like, if you bring a kid to me, I will let them practice for free. Here's our cost of the program. And if they want to stay, they can stay. If they want to go, they can go. That way, they see what we're doing. They see what we're building. And so when athletes will come, I will always tell their parents, I was like, this first practice, she's going to want to be here or he's going to want to be here. They're going to be locked in. And that's how it happened. And like, I recruited one athlete, Ariel Summit. That was the only athlete that I recruited. And in that year, she broke the USA Illinois Association 800-meter record for her age division. She went on to become an All-American in the 800. I think she finished 4th in the nation, along with Christian Phillips. He was, I think, a 13, 14 kid at Champaign Jefferson. Sharon Maynard of Champaign Central became an All-American in the 400. And Vincent Gordon was slated to become an All-American. We was in Sacramento, California, and he had a pull-up on a curve, and he finished second in his heat, but he couldn't run the rest of the meet because we didn't know what was wrong. So that's when our program took off. Right around in that 2013 year, 2014 was a rough year, and in 2015 it was like boom, the Vipers are here. So
pull back the curtain a little bit for us, because what you described there, and I appreciate that. That's what we talk about a lot of times when we're talking about starting a club and building a club, recruiting or not recruiting, word of mouth, those kind of things. The community that you're in, how many, basically what's your competition, how many other clubs there are, and those kind of things. Pull back the curtain. How did you develop your cost structure, your fundraising structure, how much the kids actually pay for the trips versus that's already part uniforms? I mean, there's so much more of the, I'm going to call it, I'm just going to point blank say the business side of running the club. How did you develop that side?
Well, me and Candace funded the program for the first 4 years ourselves, and then whatever parents and family members that can help out, that's what we went with. So we took care of everything. We took care of all travel. We took care of all hotels.
Wow.
And then we were not a non-for-profit until I think 2015. So and all the way up into 2014, it was just like, okay, we don't have that many athletes, so let's figure out the cost structure. So what we started doing was when we would go to meets in Illinois, we would look at how much it'll cost for an athlete to run. So first you have your USA membership or your AAU membership, that'll be $20 to $30 for the year. And then if an athlete goes to an event and they run 4 times, it's either 7 per entry or they have a flat fee of 20. And so our goal was to go to 3 to 4 meets. And then uniform, we were Nike, so we will find the lowest uniform that we could, like a singlet, and then the kids will buy their tights because we want them to feel comfortable. So whether it was shorts or tights. And so once you get through that, you're looking at about $100 to $150 depending on. So what we did was we made our first fee $250. So once the fees will come in and the athletes will establish that they can pay whatever we put into the program, we will have an overcost going into next year. And so it just made sense. And so from those years, with inflation and, athletes getting better and have more athletes coming in, it just went up. And we only focus on athletes in Champaign, Urbana, Savoy. That's it. And then in that 2014, 2015 year, we had our first Danville athlete. And then in that same year, we had Bloomington. And so the cost had to go up because now we're servicing so many kids and we're running out of money quick. And so when we got to fundraising, it was just us creating a letter that we drafted. We sent it to school boards. We sent it to the city of Champaign, the city of Urbana. We went door to door to solicit for funds and businesses. And we got a lot of no's, but some of those yeses were very big. U of I Credit Union has been a sponsor and a donor for our program since existence of our program. Todd Jacobs State Farm has been very, very instrumental in sponsoring a kid or two and things like that. And so when we got our first big, fundraising donation, it came from Peter Fox, and it was without us being a non-for-profit. And so the very next year, he told us no, because we wasn't a non-for-profit. So then it forced us to get our non-for-profit status. And then things started clicking on the business side. Okay, that non-for-profit status is important. Making sure that your taxes and your money and stuff is up to date with everything, because it is public knowledge when you're a non-for-profit organization. Paying attention to the association fees and the athlete fees when you're going from meets. So we went from doing 4 meets to doing 6 to 7 in the summer. Making sure that your cost overhead is will take care of everything that you need. So back in the day, we couldn't afford most of the stuff that we have now. Today, we can get through all of the meets, the team fees, the uniforms, some hotels, food, gas, transportation. It's just building it from the bottom up. And you have to go through your trial and error phase, because like in 2013, I thought like when our numbers dropped, we went from 21 back to down to 14 to 17. We had one of the best years ever, but it was still bad because our numbers went from 21 and then dropped. And we took like about 8 kids to nationals in Humble, Texas that year, Houston, Texas, rather. And so the following year is when it got bigger. So imagine 77 athletes and all of your coaches are volunteer coaches. And we have to make sure that we could get coaches there. So then we started adding a small coaching fee to it. And that coach's fee was just like $25. So we could take care of hotel lodging for our coaches and, transportation when we have to rent vehicles and things like that. So we just made it work. We became friends with people in the community that actually wanted to see us grow. And when we started growing, then the attention started to become bigger. And so in 2014, when we had 77 athletes coming, it was like, oh my God, like, what do we do? And we had 77 athletes from 25 different areas in central Illinois. As far as Springfield, all the way down the line of 74. So you go from Springfield, Bloomington, Decatur, Muhammad, Monticello, Savoy, uh, to Lono, Champaign, Urbana, Rantoul, Danville. And then we have one athlete coming from right on the state line in Indiana. I can't remember the town, but right there on the state line from Indiana, coming all the way in to train with us. And so then it just started to get bigger. I started to see the power in what we were doing and just being a resource to them. And so when I sat down with Dr. Trask, who helped us get our 501c3, he explained the business side to me about how to keep and maintain our non-for-profit status, what we had to report year after year, how much we should charge athletes, what the coach's expense and cost should be, with the miscellaneous items and things like that. So it was creating a blueprint for something that I didn't have, and understanding the business side of things, to now looking at the program and being able to fundraise and raise money. And I was always a fundraiser, like for the city of Champaign. I helped raise $970,000 for the Summer Youth Employment Program. So I just basically used my contacts with that program to send letters to sponsors, businesses, and donors and say, hey, would you mind sponsoring a kid for their fees? And so like U of I Employee Credit Union, they sponsored 4 kids in a total cost of their trip. And that was a blessing, because those 4 kids couldn't pay anything, because we were an at-risk program at the time. And so that was our target. We had a target market. Every athlete was responsible to bring in said amount of money. And when they did, we created a savings account for what we would take over for the next year. And in one of those years, we were negative in debt, but we were able to get out of it and make it to where our athletes are really seeing the value and appreciating the business side of just college athletics and high school athletics, for that matter, because college athletics is all a business now. So that helps them understand that, hey, you have to put in this work in order to get to this next level. If you don't understand it, you can fall below the wayside. And so we just had great people. Most kids from the U of I, their parents worked at the U of I, so they were able to come in and mold me into that great leader, because I didn't have anybody. And, when the coaches started to leave and I was the one that was left, and I didn't want the program to go away, so I just stayed with it. We created a board and every year we have a board meeting and we talk about these things. How do we restructure our program? We're going into year 14. We're going into year 14 now. And it took a while to get there, but now it's like a well-oiled machine. I don't have to do much. Like, we don't have a website or anything like that. It's just, you hear about the Vipers program from parents, athletes, and just what we do at the state series. Announcer at the state series always gives us a shout out if he recognized one of our kids. And he was like, these 3 athletes in the middle train with the Vipers track club, and this is at the state meeting. I'm sitting like at the state meeting, like, oh, they're gonna hate us now.
Yeah, I was gonna say not good, right?
Oh man, Matt, the voice of Illinois for track and field, Matt P, man, when he started noticing what we were doing as coaches, it just made it wonderful, just sitting there as not a coach on a high school level, and you got 3 girls in the final, and you've been training them since September, and you're sitting back trying to, like, I can't say who's going to win, and you just got to sit back and cheer them on. So it became really bigger than a life thing to me. It was like, I didn't even know it could be like this. I didn't know it was like this, and it became fun. And so when athletes come, I never turn anybody away. No, like our numbers were 99 this year. We had 99 total athletes this year, and we've had athletes from all over. We're in 40 different areas now, and they all come to Champaign just to train with me. And it's scary at sometimes, but it's like, oh my God, I can do this now. I can really do this and make time for the athletes and get them in front of college coaches and exposure, and get them to run at college meets and things like that. It's super fun. It's been a long time and a long ride, so I love it right now.
You mentioned trials and errors, and I was going to ask you, what's an error that tripped you up so that someone can maybe not make the error? I'm going to ask it a little bit different way. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting or just has started? And you think about all the struggles you had in the first year of it, how much to charge, not to charge because you're doing at-risk youth, etc. What's and there's a ton of advice that you could give because of the experience you have of 14 years, 100 athletes. It's quite amazing. If you had to pick one, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to someone looking to start a summer track club?
Never be afraid of the revolving door. So I talked about this at our banquet this year. The revolving door is the athletes that come and go at all times. And some come and go because their parents moved to a different city, they moved to a different state. Some don't like the training or it's just too much. But never be afraid of that. Like, it's going to, even with the money, it's going to come and it's going to go. Some years you're going to have big fundraising years. Some years you're not going to raise anything, but you have to just keep coming and keep going and stay true to your mission. Whatever your mission is, whether it's for exposure for the athletes, experience for the athletes, stay true to your mission, because if you don't do that, then there's no point of you even thinking about starting a club, because they're going to be great years. They're going to be horrible years. Like our first 3 years, we couldn't win an All-American title or win a national titles. But in that fourth year, man, you talk about national titles, All-Americans. And the good thing about USA Track and Field, you have 2 to 3 opportunities to do that. You have the Hershey National Meet, and then you have the National Youth Meet. And when those meets come to like our state and it's a national meet, you gotta go. You show up and you just run, and you just believe in your kids and believe in yourself, believe in your coaches, believe in your mission, and don't deter no matter what. Like, you're gonna have rough years, but that revolving door stays open. You're gonna have people come in, you're gonna have people leave. You're gonna have donors come in, you're gonna have donors leave. Some donors will donate to you 1 year and won't give you a penny the next year, but you better follow up with the year after that, because they might give you something big. And every year I've learned a lesson with the Vipers, because like, it helps me coach the Ks. Like, it really does. It helps me transition everything that I learned to them on how to deal with, whether it's the athlete or the parents or the political side of athletics, which I hate, like politics in sports is terrible nowadays, and I can't stand it. But I just stay true to my mission, and my mission has always been kid-centered. Like, I want to be able to say that, like, my legacy is left with how many people that I helped, instead of break down or burnt the bridge or anything like that. So I love, like, my kids. Like, I have 1 daughter and 1 grandbaby, and that's it. I love my athletes. I love them to death. Even the ones that I don't talk to, I love them to death. So that revolving door is scary at times, because at some point I'm probably going to be going through that revolving door. And I don't know when that is. I don't know if that's this year, next year, whatever, but I know that it's coming. And like, I mean, you can see some of the stuff in the background just on the wall. Like, those are all my athletes and kids that have come through the program. And it's just a reminder when I come into my office, like, hey, like, those kids are in college now doing great things. And part of that is because of what you instilled in them from that Viper venom. So never be afraid of the revolving door. Always stay true to your mission. And just know that revolving door does never close. It's always going to be open. When you're running a club, a high school program, you see it at the professional levels. One day you're playing for the Chicago Bulls, management decides to trade you playing for the Lakers. So it's always a revolving door in athletics, especially like youth sports. It could be a youth program that's like, man, I'm listening to Coach Lowe right now. I'm starting the program in Champaign. Well, guess what? We might lose some athletes, and that's okay. But my job is to be a leader and help whoever wants to start programs that are for the youth, so that they can have a good time, so they can, stay out of trouble or whatever the case. And like, when we started for at-risk youth, that's what it was. Like, some of those kids were tough and rough, and we was like, hey, we can give you an outlet where you can run fast, have fun, be competitive. Track and field teaches you a lot about life. And that's what I love about our sport. I think it's the greatest sport of all time. It teaches you so much about life, because sometimes, like, it's 7 people, you don't have a team, and you run in different age divisions. You got 8 and under, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And if you don't have 4 people, you can't create a relay team. So it's just you. And so that revolving door is like, I'm leaving because we don't have a team, or it's like, man, my job is to get better so I can go back to my high school team and make them better and bring them with us next year so we can have a relay team. And that's how it always happened. The door never closes until the program goes away. And so we've been around for 14 years, going on to 14 years. So I'm excited about that. So
yeah, it's great advice on persistence, being comfortable with change. I think that's a
yeah,
life lesson right there, by the way. And then I would even take it a step back, because you mentioned being true to your mission statement. I would say creating a mission statement. What are
yeah,
you actually doing this for? Maybe it is money. Maybe you're like, this is a cash cow. I'm going to make a lot of money on there. I know some clubs make a lot of money. That's okay. I don't hate on that, because you need money for your
yeah,
family and things like
exactly.
that. But then be true to your mission and realize maybe that revolving door looks different for you than some others. So I love that advice. Before we transition to Kankakee, I have to know, so how did you come up with the name Vipers Track Club?
I didn't. That was all Coach Phillips.
That was her.
Like when she was, she was just like, I got this program that we can start. And everybody always say that. And I was just like, I don't know where it came from, to be perfectly honest with you, because I don't like snakes. So I don't like snakes. My mom fears snakes. She will see a guard snake in the backyard and go crazy. And so when she said our name is the Vipers, I'm like, where did that come from? And she was like, she never could tell me.
She's like, this is what it is.
It just stuck. And man, I could take you to the years where it looked like somebody drew our logo to like where the logo is right now. It looked like a child drew the logo, and you can see like the lines of the sketching in the logo. It was so bad. And so I just like, that's that revolving door, meeting
Yeah.
people who are going to come into your life and say, man, we can re-image this logo. Let's put some more lines in it to make it not look like a kid's drawing. And I swear, like, I got shirts that I'm like, I can't wear that because it looked like somebody just took it and drew it in. And it was, I don't know. I wish I had the backstory to it. I don't know if we were a part of another program and we took over the program and they were called the Vipers, but I remember even contemplating changing our name a few years ago, but I was just like, you know what, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's your history. Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, even though I don't like the snake, but I like the Viper venom that we establish in all of our athletes, that mental toughness piece, because I always tell them, like, no matter if you're training with me or not, when you go to your high school or you go to your junior high, you have that Viper venom running through your veins. And so that's like, I can strike at any time. If it's the last jump of the meet and I got to win, I could go out and do that. And that venom is strong. You wouldn't, if I didn't tell you how many areas we're in, you wouldn't even know. But most people have been paying attention. Like, man, the Vipers are everywhere. Like, this girl is all the way in Lawrenceville, Illinois. You know how far Lawrenceville is from Champaign? Far, 2.5 hours. And we got athletes there.
Wow.
It's crazy. So I love it. It's a blessing. So yeah.
That's awesome. We'll transition to Kankakee. How did that come about? You mentioned talking with AD and making a bold statement of giving me 4 years. How did they even find you? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean, Kankakee is not here. And why, you mentioned replacing a legend. I'd love to know who that is. But they could have, there's other options up there.
Yeah.
How in the world did this connection happen?
Because of the Vipers. It is all because of the Vipers. Like Jess Gathings, who's the president of the school board, he also had a club called the Kankakee Track Club. And so we would go toe to toe with those guys all the time. And he became a mentor for me with, at the time, was one of the youth vice presidents for Illinois Association, and then Mark Jones, who's at Proviso East, who was the youth president and youth association chair, who was just in charge. And I remember our first time going to Kankakee, the track was black and they had a grass field, and we were out there. And we're out there with our little 7 to 8 people, and they called me to the middle of the field, like, "Who are you? Where are you from? And why y'all kicking our butt?" And I'm like, "My name is Marques Lowe. I'm from Champaign." He's like, "Oh, so you got all those schools in that area?" I was like, "No, we just 2 schools, maybe, and one from one, but we're just starting." And that's where our relationship started. That's exactly how the conversation. Mark and Jess standing in the middle of the field, like scouring me about we're kicking their butts. And we just had a small team. And so throughout the years, we would come back and come back and come back. And so those years, Jess and Mark mentored me. And so it was 2018. We was in North Carolina for nationals. I got this phone call, and it's Jess, and he's like, "Hey man, how would you feel about coming to Kankakee and coaching the boys team?" And I said, "I don't know if it was just like, I just want you to listen to the calls. You know, Will Cox is going to call you and Dr. Walters is going to call you, and we're going to talk in X, Y, and Z." And so before that, they talked to me and everything, and it was all cool. They called just as he said, like they were going to call me. Coach Wilcox called me down to come to the school to see the school. I still wasn't sold on it. And then Kankakee had their summer meet. They have a summer meet every year, the second week of June. It was pouring down raining outside. And Dr. Walters and Theotis Pace came to the meet in the pouring rain, was sitting at the gate under an umbrella. And they came to just watch me coach and see me coach. And they call me over on the loudspeaker. I'm like, "Who is this? Like, why are they paging me?" And so Dr. Walters and Theotis is sitting at the gate, and they gave me a pitch. And I had some concerns at first, but then it became like these people came to see me. It's pouring raining outside. Like, and so I got excited about it. And so now I'm in North Carolina, and I'm thinking about moving to North Carolina. I'm looking at houses and looking at the area, and just like, man, this would be a cool place to live. And so something happened at Kankakee where they was like, "Hey, so our girls position open. So do you think you could do both?" I said, "Well, I do that now with the Vipers. Like, we're in North Carolina at nationals right now. We just won our first All-American for the meet in 4x8 with a few guys from all over the place." And I said, "We do that right now. I can do that." And so before we got off the phone, I guess they're all sitting in the office together. I didn't notice until later. And so he's like, "Do you have any questions or anything?" I said, "If I am able to take over, I want my title to be director of track and field. Is that okay?" And they say, "Yes, that can be your title." And when I got back from Charlotte, my first stop was Kankakee. I met Mr. Wilcox, who is our AD today. Jess lives right around the corner. So as I'm leaving, I meet Jess pulling up. He's like, "Hey man, what you think?" I'm like, everything looks good. I'm thinking about it. And it took me a while. And so my stepdad had just retired from truck driving. And I knew I wasn't moving to Kankakee because I still had the Vipers in Champaign, and I just wasn't ready to make that transition yet. And I still haven't to this day. I called my stepdad. I said, "How long did it take you to get to work?" He said, "About an hour and 15 minutes. And he said, "You thinking about taking a job somewhere?" I said, "Yeah, in Kankakee." He said, "That's a straight shot from 57 north and back." He said, "Are you thinking about moving?" I said, "No." He said, "But I'm worried." I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it." He's like, "Marques, you can do it." And so I sat back, I prayed about it. I continue to pray about it. I'm a big believer in my faith. So I prayed about it. And so I had our banquet the very next week. And I let my athletes know, because of you and all that you've shown me that you are willing to do, I'm going to take this position in Kankakee because you guys have shown me that if you can travel for me, I can travel for them. And so that was my start of going to Kankakee because of what the Vipers have shown me, the athletes who are driving 2.5 hours a day or every other day, athletes from Bloomington, Danville, like just driving to train with me. And so I felt that was a part of my journey to do it for Kankakee. And so that's how it all started. That's the 100% story of how that started.
So you won both titles here in 28 was 2018 the first season?
2018 was the first season. Yep.
So when you step for your first practice, if you can kind of, think about that, get in your head, the first practice, did you look at that group and go, oh yeah, in 4 years, we're bringing home both trophies?
No, no way. Because the boys didn't really have a team. They had like 8 athletes. So the goal for me to take over the boys program was to build the boys program up to what it is now. The girls have always had success with Teresa Bogard and Coach Benny Phillips. They've always had success. So the girls program is like the top echelon of programs in the state. And so I knew about that because when I coached at Central, I would have to run against this girl named Dominique Kemple, and I hated seeing her. Every time she came, I knew it was going to be a problem. I'm like, okay, well, we're not running Simone in the 200 because Dominique is here, and there's no point, because we know who's going to win. And so I remember my first meeting with the team. They looked at me like I was crazy, like all boys and girls. They're like, man, you ain't going to do whatever, blah, 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 blah. You ain't this, you ain't that. And at that time, I felt like I had to tell them what my accomplishments were because they didn't trust me. They didn't trust me at all. The community didn't trust me. They didn't like me because I was taking over for Coach Phillips on the girl side, and they felt how they felt. And so it was a bunch of Facebook stuff and social media stuff. And it was like Benny the Great, because Benny is his first name. And I never responded to any of that stuff because I knew me and Coach Phillips had a good relationship, or so I thought. And so I just never responded to it. And so I let administration take over. It's like, Marques, don't respond. I met some great people in the community, and they're just like, after my first eval, I told my boss, I said, it's going to take me about 4 years to get this program in shape. And in that first year, our girl, it's crazy how stuff works, right? God works in mysterious ways. Our 4x2 was ranked second in the state, and our 4x1 was ranked 14th. And we were in the heat with Coach Phillips' girls from Springfield. And his girls, they were in the lead, and my girl came and walked them down. And that was just the history. And Jocelyn Crowell was a part of that team. She went on to become 3-time All-Stater at that meet. And the next year was the COVID year. And that sucked because I truly felt like I had like the best team in the state. We lost 18 seniors in that COVID year too. And a lot of them were first-time athletes. So we got through a part of the indoor season, and we were on our way to the Rantoul Invite in Champaign. And I was like, this is going to be our breaking out party. And they called us and told us that they were shutting everything down. I kept my faith high and all the way until they told us it was going to be a high school season. And so my kids were crushed. They were like, oh my God. And so all of those kids didn't get the season that they knew that would have been special if we had that season. And then the next year, the girls had a good time, and they put it all together just to be one, like everybody just like prelims, finals, whatever. And I love that how they structured the meet. And my boys 4x2 team, we made some changes that everybody didn't agree with. We had one kid that qualified in 4 events. He went to us and he said, Coach, I really want to do this for the team. And we kicked butt all season. And we got lane 1 in the finals. And I knew that they didn't know what we were doing, and they wasn't going to see us. And we're in lane 1. We're behind Urbana and another team, and Jeremiah Hamilton takes off. And everybody in the state sees Hamilton doing this great thing, but we got a guy that's one of the fastest kids in the state on the 3rd leg. We're in last place. He catches everybody, give it to Jair Hill, and we win our first title on the boys' side. And I went crazy. I was screaming, I was crying, I was overjoyed and excited. And I remember the Daily Journal asking me a question about this year. And I told her, I was like, because of their experience, they're going to come back next year with a vengeance, and it's going to be amazing. The boys' season started off great. The girls' season started off great. Then we had an injury to one of our key athletes. He torn meniscus in the football season.
Mm.
But K's athletics were booming at the time. The boys had just played in the state championship 5A football game. They were like 9-1 before they lost the state title game. And so it was our time. And our girls went undefeated. Like we had a historic year, like outdoor season. Like we won every invite except for one because we left early. And we were in the lead when we left. And so we just had our invite coming up, and we had Kenwood coming to town, and we had East St. Louis Senior coming to town. And I was like, ain't no way we can stay at this meet. We gotta go, we gotta get home. And we won our invite. It was the biggest invite that the entire state has seen that this season. And I knew right then our girls were going to be special. Our boys finished, our boys won too. So
wow.
Everything this year for Kankakee, 5 out of the 6 trophies that we won in track and field have never been won before. Wow. So boys conference and girls conference, boys sectionals and girls sectionals. It was the first girls sectional title in 25 years. And then the boys state title and the girls state title, 7 days apart. That's the first state title in Kankakee's school history ever. So it was an amazing season, and we had 8 state champions, 2 on the boys side, 6 on the girls side, and it couldn't have came at a better time for the community. It couldn't have came at a better time for the school. It was an amazing feeling. I cried each time we won because it was just like everything came full circle. It was like everything that I worked for and put like with the Vipers and Champaign Central and St. Thomas More, was just like, man, I remember people telling me that this wasn't possible. I remember talking to Coach Calhoun about it. Just your track and field Illinois legends, and just like he was just like, just stay the course, just be patient, your time is going to come. And so when we won the girls, I remember Tony Jones from Milesplit interviewing me, and he was like, so what do you think about next week? And this is off the record. And I looked at him, I said, I won't know until sectionals, but I think we can do it again. And then we won our sectionals, and we had 9 events. And so we went to the state championship with 9 events on the boys side, and we got in all 9 events. And so I knew it was between us, East St. Louis Senior, and Cahokia. And I was like, these are juggernaut teams.
I'll say dominant teams.
Dominant all the time. East St. Louis with Ward and all those boys. So I was worried, but Jayon Morrow he's a sophomore. He's going into his junior year. He did 3 events, individual events, the 1, the 2, and the 4, and placed second in all of them. That's 24 points. Second for the title was 32. He scored 60. So I was just like, it was amazing just to come back 7 days later and win it all again, and just bring that joy to the town, because Kankakee is all of a football and basketball town. But the culture of track and field in Kankakee is big. And I didn't think I was going to be able to walk in the shoes of Teresa Bogard is a Hall of Famer. Coach Phillips had Dominique Kemple and his girls. So on the girls side, I didn't think it was possible. On the boys side, they always had great athletes, but they were never able to bring it together as a team. And I got a call from a former K athlete that was, he was a former coach, and he was like, the one thing that the coaches and my friends tell me about the community, I'm all the way in Arizona, they talk about how your team is a family, and that comes from somewhere, and just stay a family. He left us a voicemail. I shared it with the team, and it was one of the best voicemails that I could ever receive, because we did something that the school had never did before, and I'm super proud of that. I still don't feel like we won anything, but just the fact that we did it, and I was the coach to help lead the kids to that, I still haven't celebrated yet. So I'm still waiting to like figure out what that's going to look like. But
earlier I said you were cutting a path that no one has done with the directorship of Kankakee. Well, winning titles that have never been won, that's part of leading through that path, that there is no path. That's part of the book, by the way. You got to make sure that's
Yeah, definitely.
Marques, wrap us up today here. One of the things I love doing with our high school coaches, because each state is so unique and so different, because you mentioned, you kind of said it quickly, and this is unique, I think, to Illinois. I'm sure there's some other states, but primarily unique to Illinois, where we have the boys and girls state meet on different weekends.
Yeah.
So help us understand, someone's listening in Florida, North Dakota, how does Illinois high school, how do we qualify for state? And what's that look like? The uniquenesses of, the split weekends. We have the 4x2, which you mentioned, which is a unique event. Talk to us about that qualifying and the things that you had to prepare your team for, qualifying wise, to get to state.
So you have your like conference championships, like so in May we just call it championship peak phase. So you have your conference championships, and then you have your sectional championships.
And so how do you qualify for sectionals? Is that based on a conference?
So sectionals, no. So conference is just your conference and whoever's in your conference. Sectionals is all of your sectional teams in your area or away from your area. You have to finish top 2 or run the qualifying standard in your event.
So sectionals is an open meet.
Yep.
And it goes sectional straight to state. There's no area, no region. Nope. Okay, perfect. So there's two stratums for state. There's sectionals and then state, and it's top 2 in each event. And then there's also a qualifying
standard. Yeah. So for like the 100 is I think in class 2. So we have 3 different classes: class 1A, 2A, and 3A.
Okay, that's important.
All of the time standards are different for each class based on your enrollment size. So for class 2A, I think the qualifying standard for, I want to say the 400 is 50 point or 49.9. Mm-hmm. So if you finish top 2 and you don't run that standard, you still get to go to state.
Right.
Say, for instance, you finish 3rd and you run that standard, you can still go to state because you ran the qualifying time.
Got it.
And so athletes out of each sectional will qualify for state based on top 2 or qualifying standard. And then you will go to the state championship in Charleston, Illinois, where it's a semifinal, where you have day 1 is all semifinals. And then you qualify for the final round for the top 9 athletes who become all staters, and then a chance to bring home a team title for your school.
And they're running all 3 classes at the same weekend. So is that a 3-day weekend or 4-day weekend?
It's a 3-day week. So Thursday is class 1A only. And so I think that's kind of unfair because they don't run again until Saturday. But
nice.
Your bigger classes, class 2A and class 3A, are your bigger classes. And maybe they think differently, and I don't know why, but we run on Friday and then Saturday. So you have to qualify for Saturday, and there's no rest. So, but the good thing about class 2A is that the meet is at 9:00 in the morning, and it is done by 1. So you have the rest of the day to relax, eat with your team, go for ice bath, recovery, and then just prep your team for the final battle. So it's a journey and it's a haul, but those who qualify for that final day it's always packed. Sometimes it's storming, sometimes it's hot and sunny. Last year we had a heat delay. Now I've been to a lot of track meets. I have never, even in California, Texas, never had a heat delay. They made us wait 6 hours for this heat delay, like to go down. So imagine being at a state track and field meet. You've already checked out of the dorms. You can't go back in. You're here for a heat delay. And I was like, this is crazy. So I know we had it here in Illinois, and I think one of our national meets like AAU or USATF had a heat delay as well. It makes me think like I would think track coaches might be the biggest proponents of climate change. It's like look, man, we're pausing track meets for this stuff now. Like, let's get this. In Illinois, it's crazy. I mean, I can understand,
not Texas.
Yeah, a rain delay. But if I went to a national meeting in Texas, they didn't pause. They're like, man, it's Texas. Like,
Yeah.
this is the first time where I need, well, four
Uh,
different colors. Like it's just long sleeve shirts and long sleeve pants. And now they are creating technology with UPF 40 stuff in the shirts and stuff like that. So it's crazy. So yeah.
well, I do like, my first coaching gig was in Illinois. I coached up in high school as an assistant and then a head coach up there. And so I got to go through the qualifying, sectionals through state. And I really do I like the top two. Texas is very similar. Top two go on to state.
Yeah.
And they only take 8 people. It's finals only at state. So
Yeah.
it's super, super tough. And that means that there's kids that are running 46 point, 47 point
Yeah.
that are in a tough, I don't know if they're last, if it's area or region, whatever they call it. But because they didn't get top two, they're third place in 47 flat. And it's like, you get to stay home this year. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I do love that there's also this hey, if you run, and those qualifying standards are pretty salty from what I remember. I want to say 10-6 was the 100 when we were in a 2 class back when that's how old I am, Marques. We just had 2 classes back then, 1 and 2A. I loved it. But 10-6, like, okay, if you run 10-6, you get to also go to state. And it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. That's a pretty good mark. Like you wouldn't, there's a lot of college coaches like, I'll take a 10-6 all day. So they have this. So I like that system. So I appreciate you helping explain it, because every state, there's a high school coach right now in Nevada, and they're like, oh man, that's not how we do it. And that actually sounds good. This is how change occurs. They see how maybe other states are doing it. Maybe Texas, I don't know. Texas ain't never going back. They're going to keep their 2 people per
Texas
area.
And California and even Indiana, they just have a
that's right.
That's just one big state meet.
I love it. I love it. That I liked it better in Illinois when it was 2, when it was big school, small school. I do love the Indiana. I coached college over there, and so I got to go to the state meets several times, and I did love that. Just, hey man, it don't matter if you got 100 people in your school or 10,000. We all gonna line up, and that's how we got the movie Hoosiers, is because of that one class system. The small school beat the big school, and now we have a whole movie about it. That's what we should be doing in track, man. I love it, man. Marques, I'm so grateful. It's never easy to talk about your own story sometimes, right? I mean, you're a man of humility and faith, and so it's hard to sometimes say some of the things that you've accomplished, some things that you've overcome. But the number one reason we started this podcast was to uplift and honor your journey, and I think that's certainly helping you share your story is one of those. The number 2 reason was to help others, and so I just can't tell you enough. You sharing your story today and being so transparent, so open, so authentic, it has helped so many people. You'll know, because the people will reach out to you, and they'll comment on our social media posts. You're going to see the impact not only that you make on a daily basis with the young people that you mentor and coach through Vipers and now through Kankakee, but also other coaches around this country that are, they're going to look to you and be like, man, no offense, but if that dude can do it, that means I can do it. And that's one that actually, it sounds like an offense, a slight, but it's actually one of the greatest compliments you can give. It's like, yeah, you're right. I'm not special. I'm kind of paraphrasing here a little bit with you, that you can do it. I did it, and you can too, man. And so your story matters. Your journey matters. What is so cool, you mentioned did you say you're 39 or 36?
39.
Man, you are so young. That's the awesome thing about this, is that, to use the track analogy, and if you've listened to this podcast before, you've heard me say this before, and I will continue to say it till the day I die. Marques, you are barely at the halfway point of your race, my friend. If you were a quarter miler, you might be in the back stretch. And sometimes it's hard to see. Sometimes it feels like, man, I'm whatever, Mike. I'm at 399 meters. I'm about to drop dead at the finish line. I've been through this and this and this and this. The struggle to do this and this. Come on, man. And it's like, no, you're 39. You've been coaching now for, gosh, 20. What'd you say, 27-ish?
It's 14 years, actually. It's going on to 14.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Yeah, you've been coaching for 14 years. You're 39, man. You got 20 more, 25. Heck, with the way technology's come with medicine, 30 years. You've got double what you have coached today. Like I said, you're barely at halftime, my friend. And that is super exciting. I hope you take excitement from that, because it means there's just so many more young people for you to, all these great athletes you mentioned that are at these great universities, and they're getting married this, coming up here soon and things like that. You've got more. You've got more weddings to attend. You've got more graduations to attend. You've got more businesses to support that, that are run by former athletes. You've got more coaches to help inspire. Maybe it's this directorship on the high school level, which I still think, I just want to pour gas on that there needs to be more education about what you're doing there, because I think it's super interesting. I think a great way to help build even more of our participation and our high quality participation for track, man. So, man, I'm just so thankful and just so grateful that you would share your story with us today and all the listeners.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you reaching out to me to share my story. Always wanted to do this, especially on your podcast. Super honored, super blessed. Thank you for taking the time. And want to before we go, give a shout out to the K's. Didn't forget about you guys. I love you guys to death. You guys have made me whole. Really, really appreciate Coach Will Cox, who's our athletic director, and Dr. Walters, who's our superintendent, Jess Gathings, who brought me into Kankakee. I will never forget anything that you guys have done for me and my coaching career and just my life in general. So I want to thank you guys, all the athletes in Kankakee, alumni, parents in the community, and every athlete in the Vipers. I cannot thank you guys enough, because there is no program without you guys. So I'm really excited to keep moving forward. And if I can help anybody out there, don't hesitate to reach out. Not on Twitter, but on Facebook and Instagram. But my Instagram is the Vipers Track Club. So
all spelled out, the Vipers Track Club. No dots, no dashes.
No dots, no dashes, no nothing.
I love it. All right. If you're on Instagram, the Vipers Track Club, I'm just gonna keep messaging them on Facebook. That's how I'm gonna roll.
That's the easiest way to get in
easiest
contact.
way. And you have the option. Obviously, reach out to him, please. And if you ever want to reach out to me, you can. I'm on Facebook, and I guess you can reach out to me on Instagram, but Twitter at Mike Cunningham. That's where I live. I'm gonna go check my tweets right now. So thanks again, man, Marques. Thank you for being here, listening today, and let's bring it back next week, and we'll have another amazing coach with another story. Awesome. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
No problem.